The boardroom fell silent as my mother tapped her glass with a silver spoon. The executive team, our family, sat around the mahogany table that had witnessed 3 generations of Mitchell business decisions. I adjusted my tie, a rare concession to formality for this special announcement Mom had insisted on. After careful consideration, Mom began, her gaze sweeping over us before landing on my sister. I've decided who will take over as CEO when I step down next month. She paused dramatically. Congratulations, Olivia. The company will be in your capable hands. The room erupted in applause while I sat frozen, my coffee cup suspended halfway to my lips. Olivia's perfectly manicured hand flew to her mouth in rehearsed surprise. Our eyes met briefly across the table, hers gleaming with triumph, mine wide with disbelief. Mom, there must be some mistake, I finally managed, my voice barely audible above the congratulatory chatter. The MitchConnect app one developed is what saved us from bankruptcy. It's generating 70% of our revenue now. Mom's smile tightened. Jason, let's not do this here. Olivia has an MBA from Wharton. She understands business fundamentals. And I understand innovation, I countered, my knuckles whitening around my cup. You know, the thing that took us from failing local hardware stores to a $250 million tech integrated retail chain? Mom placed her hand over mine. This is happening, Jason. We'll discuss it privately later. As everyone filed out, Dad squeezed my shoulder. She's made up her mind, son, he whispered. His eyes said what his words couldn't. He disagreed too. I remained seated, staring at the presentation still projected on the wall, my quarterly report showing how my app had revolutionized our business. The same presentation Mom had barely glanced at before making her decision. Mitchell's Hardware had been the cornerstone of our family for generations. What started as a single store in downtown Chicago had grown into a regional chain of 30 locations across the Midwest. My grandfather built it, my father expanded it, and my mother modernized its operations when she took over 15 years ago. I grew up sweeping floors and stocking shelves, learning the business from the ground up. While Olivia attended business school, I taught myself coding and developed a passion for technology. When Amazon and big box retailers began crushing independent hardware stores 5 years ago, our family business wasn't immune. Sales plummeted, and 3 stores closed in rapid succession. We're hemorrhaging money, Mom had announced during a grim family meeting 2 years ago. At this rate, we'll be completely bankrupt within 18 months. That night, I couldn't sleep. Our family legacy, our employees' livelihoods, everything was at stake. While Olivia proposed conventional cost-cutting measures, I knew we needed something revolutionary. What if we integrate technology with traditional retail? I suggested at breakfast the next morning. An app that connects contractors with homeowners and sources materials directly from our stores? Mom looked skeptical. We're hardware retailers, not tech developers. I can build it, I insisted. Give me 6 months. Dad believed in me enough to convince Mom. They gave me a small team and minimal budget. I worked 18-hour days, sleeping on a cot in my office, fueled by energy drinks and determination. When MitchConnect launched, it transformed our business model overnight. Now contractors could bid on home improvement projects through our platform. Homeowners rated their work. Materials were sourced from our stores with integrated inventory management. The app became the go-to platform for home improvement in the Midwest, driving foot traffic to our physical locations and opening entirely new revenue streams. Yet somehow, none of that mattered today. The week following Mom's announcement was excruciating. At work, I maintained a professional facade while Olivia paraded around the headquarters, already redecorating the CEO's office in her mind. I was thinking we might scale back some of the tech investment, she mentioned casually during lunch, picking at her salad. Focus on our core business. I nearly choked on my sandwich. The tech investment is our core business now. It's what saved us. She waved dismissively. It's one revenue stream, Jason. We can't put all our eggs in one basket. That evening, I received a text from Dad. Backyard. 8 p.m. Our childhood code for important conversations. I found him sitting by the fire pit in my parents' sprawling backyard, nursing a whiskey. You know this isn't right, I said, accepting the glass he offered. Dad sighed heavily. Your mother believes Olivia has the formal qualifications, the board connections, the polish. And I have the actual results, I countered, pulling up the company analytics on my phone. Look at this growth curve since Mitch Connect launched. We've expanded to 5 new cities without opening physical locations. Our contractor network has quadrupled. I know, son. He looked genuinely pained. But your mother, she's always had certain expectations. Olivia fulfilled them. You chose your own path. The realization stung worse than the decision itself. So this isn't about business at all. It's about me not being what Mom wanted. Jason. I poured everything into saving this company, I interrupted, my voice cracking. I missed dates, lost relationships, barely slept. For what? To be passed over because I don't have the right degree. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. Give it time. Maybe she'll change her mind. But we both knew she wouldn't. 3 weeks after the announcement, I sat in my office reviewing the latest app analytics when Olivia walked in without knocking. I've been looking at your team's budget, she declared, dropping a folder on my desk. There's significant fat we can trim. I leafed through her proposal, blood pounding in my ears. You want to cut the development team by half? Freeze the UX improvements? Are you insane? We need to show better short-term profits before I take over, she explained as if speaking to a child. The app works fine as is. Technology doesn't stand still, Olivia. If we don't continuously improve, someone else will build a better platform and we'll be right back where we started. She crossed her arms. The decision's been made. HR is already preparing the paperwork. Something inside me snapped. I stood up abruptly, sending my chair crashing against the wall. You know what? I'm done. You and Mom want to run this company into the ground again? Be my guests. Her eyes widened. Don't be dramatic. I quit, I announced, grabbing my laptop. Effective immediately. You can't just leave, she called after me as I stormed down the hallway. What about your contractual obligations? The non-compete clause? I whirled around. Check my employment contract, Olivia. I own the intellectual property rights to Mitch Connect. I built it, I own it. Her face paled. That's not possible. You developed it while employed here. With specific terms, I countered. Read the fine print. If I leave, I take my creation with me. I walked out of Mitchell's hardware headquarters, unsure where I was going but certain I wasn't coming back. That night, alone in my apartment, memories flooded back as I nursed a bottle of bourbon. I was 10 years old, proudly displaying my science fair project, a complex Rube Goldberg machine that had won first place. Mom barely glanced at it before rushing to Olivia's debate competition. Academic achievements build future leaders, she'd said, straightening Olivia's blazer while my contraption gathered dust in the garage. At 16, I'd developed a computerized inventory system for our flagship store, reducing shrinkage by 22%. Dad had been ecstatic, implementing it across all locations. Mom's response? If you'd focus this energy on your college applications, you might get into Wharton like your sister. Christmas morning, senior year of high school, Olivia received early acceptance to the University of Pennsylvania. Mom threw an impromptu celebration, inviting family, friends, and business associates. That same day, I showed Mom the acceptance letter from MIT's computer science program. That's nice, honey, she'd said distractedly, returning to Olivia's party preparations. Though business school would have given you more options. The pattern was clear, stretching across my entire life. No matter what I achieved, it was never the right achievement in Mom's eyes. I wasn't pursuing the right path, making the right connections, building the right resume. Even saving the family business, the ultimate validation of my choices, wasn't enough to earn her approval or trust. The realization brought a strange clarity. My need for her approval had driven me all these years, pushing me to work harder, achieve more. But that approval would never come, not on my terms. It was time to let go of that need entirely. A week after quitting, I received an unexpected call from Eleanor Vance, a tech investor who had expressed interest in Mitch Connect months earlier. "I heard there was drama at Mitchell's," she said when we met for coffee. "Their loss might be the tech world's gain." Eleanor was in her 60s, with silver hair and the sharp eyes of someone who'd seen every trick in the business world. She'd built 3 successful tech companies before becoming an angel investor. "I walked away from my family's shipping business in the 80s, she revealed. "My brother got the CEO chair despite my division generating most of the revenue." Sound familiar? I nodded, surprised by the parallel. "Here's what I learned," she continued, leaning forward. "Family businesses run on emotion, not logic. You'll never win that game because the rules keep changing." "So what did you do?" I asked. "I built something better," she said simply. "My first software company outperformed my family's business within 3 years. Not out of spite, though that was a delicious side effect, but because I finally had the freedom to innovate without family dynamics suffocating me. For the first time since the announcement, I felt a spark of possibility." "The question isn't whether you can succeed without them," Eleanor said, studying me carefully. "It's whether they can succeed without you. And from what I've seen of your work, I'm betting on you." She slid a business card across the table. "I'm assembling a group of investors next week. Come pitch us your next big idea." "I don't have a next idea yet," I admitted. "I'm still processing leaving the family business." Eleanor smiled knowingly. "Yes, you do. You just haven't given yourself permission to pursue it yet." She was right. Even before leaving Mitchell's, I'd been conceptualizing an expanded platform that went beyond hardware, a comprehensive home services ecosystem. I'd just never considered building it without the family business as its foundation. "Think bigger than revenge, Jason," Eleanor advised as she left. "Build something that makes your previous success look like a warm-up act." 3 months after my departure, Mitch Connect began experiencing significant technical issues. User complaints mounted. Contractors couldn't access project bids. Inventory synchronization failed. The sophisticated system I'd built was crumbling without proper maintenance. Dad called me in a panic. "The app is crashing. The development team can't fix it. They don't understand your architecture." "That's what happens when you fire half the people who built it," I replied, trying to keep the satisfaction from my voice. "Please, Jason. We're losing customers by the hour." Despite everything, I couldn't stand seeing my creation fail. I agreed to review the code and spent a weekend identifying the critical issues. When I arrived at the office Monday morning, my first time back since quitting, the atmosphere was tense. Mom intercepted me at the elevator. "Thank you for coming," she said stiffly. "Olivia's in a meeting with the board." In the server room, I worked silently alongside what remained of my development team. By afternoon, we'd resolved the immediate issues, but deeper problems loomed. As I was preparing to leave, Dad pulled me into an empty conference room. "There's something you should know," he said, looking guilty. "Your mother. She never actually read your employment contract." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "After you left, our lawyers confirmed you own the IP rights to Mitch Connect. But there's more." He hesitated. "We found emails. Olivia had been pushing for your budget cuts for months. She convinced your mother the app was just a temporary solution, that we needed to return to traditional retail strategies." The betrayal cut deep, but wasn't surprising. She was sabotaging me. Dad nodded miserably. "There's worse. The board meeting today? They're discussing company valuation. Since you left, our revenue has dropped 40%. 2 investors have pulled out. The company's barely worth half what it was with you at the helm." I leaned against the wall, processing this information. Why are you telling me this? Because, Dad said quietly, the board is considering removing your mother as CEO immediately instead of waiting for her retirement. They want to approach you about returning not as an employee, but as chief executive. The irony was almost too perfect. And Mom? Does she know about this? She's fighting it. But the numbers don't lie, son. Without you and your technology, Mitchell's is sinking fast. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister. We need to talk. It's urgent. Instead of responding to Olivia, I drove to Eleanor's office. I found her reviewing pitch decks, reading glasses perched on her nose. I need your advice, I said, collapsing into a chair. The board wants to make me CEO of Mitchell's. Eleanor set down her papers. And how does that make you feel? Vindicated. Conflicted. Exhausted. I ran a hand through my hair. 3 months ago, it was everything I wanted. And now, I thought about the prototype I'd been developing since leaving HomeHive, a comprehensive platform connecting homeowners with every service provider they might need, from contractors to designers to real estate agents. Now I'm building something I believe in without having to justify my vision to people who don't understand it. Eleanor smiled. That's your answer, then. That evening, I met Olivia at a neutral location, a quiet bar downtown. She looked uncharacteristically disheveled. The board wants you back, she said without preamble. They're planning to offer you the CEO position. I know. She stared into her untouched wine. I never thought it would fall apart so quickly without you. That wasn't my intention when I left. Wasn't it? She looked up sharply. You knew exactly what would happen without you maintaining the app. I shook my head. I expected the company to struggle, not implode. That's on you and Mom for dismantling the infrastructure I built. A long silence stretched between us. For what it's worth, she finally said, I didn't see how integral your work was until it was gone. I was so focused on getting the title that I never questioned whether I was the right person for the job. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever hear from her. What will you do? She asked. I'm launching my own company, I replied. And I'm not coming back to Mitchell's, not as CEO, not in any capacity. Her eyes widened. But the family business will survive or fail on its own merits, I finished. My new venture launches next month. I'd suggest Mitchell's becomes one of our early corporate clients. The day before HomeHive's launch, Mom appeared at my new office unannounced. She surveyed the open workspace, the development team busy at their stations, many of them former Mitchell's employees who had followed me. Impressive, she conceded, though I would have expected more traditional office space. Some things never changed. What can I do for you, Mom? I asked, leading her to my glass-walled office. She sat primly on the edge of a chair. The board has given me an ultimatum. Either I convince you to return, or they'll force me to step down immediately. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. I've moved on. This is our family legacy, Jason. For generations. A legacy you didn't trust me to lead, I pointed out. I made a mistake, she admitted, the words clearly difficult for her. I thought Olivia's traditional business background was what we needed. I was wrong. In all my life, I'd never heard my mother admit she was wrong about anything. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel didn't materialize. Instead, I felt strangely empty. It's too late, Mom. HomeHive launches tomorrow. We've already secured $30 million in first-round funding. My team is committed. I'm committed. What about your commitment to your family? She demanded, a flash of the old authority returning. Something inside me broke loose, years of pent-up hurt and frustration. My commitment? I saved our family business when it was weeks from bankruptcy. I worked myself to exhaustion while you and Olivia planned my budget cuts. I created something revolutionary, and your response was to hand it to someone else to manage. Where was your commitment to me? She flinched as if I'd struck her. All I ever wanted, I continued, my voice breaking, was for you to be proud of me on my terms, not for following the path you chose for Olivia, but for the one I chose for myself. For being the son I actually am, not the one you wanted me to be. Tears welled in her eyes. I was always proud of you, Jason. I just didn't understand what you were building. I was scared of what I didn't understand. Then you should have trusted me, I said quietly. That's what leaders do, they trust the expertise of their team. She nodded slowly. I see that now. Too late, it seems. As she stood to leave, I made a decision. Mitchell's can be Home Hive's first enterprise partner, I offered. Exclusive rights to the hardware category on our platform for the first year. It won't save the company, but it will give you breathing room to rebuild. Relief flooded her face. You'd do that? After everything? Not for you, I clarified. For Dad. For our employees. For the family legacy you're so concerned about. As she reached the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, the board was right. You would have made an exceptional CEO. I know, I replied simply. And now I'll prove it with my own company instead. 1 year later, Home Hive had exceeded even my most optimistic projections. With operations in 12 states and over 2 million registered users, we were valued at $180 million after our second funding round. Eleanor had become our board chairperson, her mentorship proving invaluable as we navigated rapid growth. Mitchell's Hardware, under new professional management, neither Mom nor Olivia had stabilized as a regional chain. Our partnership had benefited both companies, though Home Hive had clearly emerged as the dominant force. At our first company anniversary celebration, I surveyed the bustling crowd of employees, investors, and partners filling our new headquarters. My development team had grown from 12 to over 100. We'd been featured in Forbes and TechCrunch. Most importantly, I'd built something authentic to my vision, unconstrained by family expectations. Dad approached, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. Since stepping back from daily operations at Mitchell's, he'd become a valuable advisor to my team, bridging the gap between traditional retail and our technology platform. Your grandfather would be proud, he said, clinking his glass against mine. Not of what you built, though that's impressive enough, but of who you've become. A tech CEO instead of a hardware store owner? He shook his head. A man who stood by his convictions and created his own path. That's the real Mitchell legacy, son. Across the room, I spotted Mom and Olivia, who had arrived together. After initial hesitation, I'd invited them both. Mom had accepted immediately. Olivia had waited until the last minute, her pride still bruised. I made my way through the crowd to greet them. This is quite something, Mom acknowledged, gesturing to the vibrant space around us. Different from what I imagined for you, but undeniably successful. That's what innovation looks like, I replied without rancor. It's rarely what we expect. Olivia had been studying our product displays. The contractor verification system is impressive, she noted. Much more sophisticated than what we had at Mitchell's. Coming from her, this was high praise. We're expanding into material supply chain management next quarter, I told her. Your background in operations could be valuable if you're ever interested in consulting. Surprise registered on her face. You'd consider working with me? After everything? Professionally? Yes. We're not kids fighting over who gets to drive Dad's car anymore. We're adults with complementary skill sets. For the first time in our adult lives, I saw genuine respect in her eyes. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, I stood alone on the office balcony, watching the city lights. Eleanor joined me, handing me a fresh glass of champagne. How does it feel? She asked. Vindication? Freedom? Something else entirely. I considered her question carefully. It feels like authenticity. Like I'm finally building exactly what I'm meant to build, without trying to contort myself into someone else's expectations. She nodded approvingly. That's the real success story here. Not the valuation or the user numbers, though those are certainly nice, but the alignment between who you are and what you create. As we gazed out at the skyline, I realized the pain that had driven me for the past year had transformed into something else, not forgiveness exactly, but perspective. My mother's rejection had set me free, launching me into a bigger arena than I would have entered otherwise. Sometimes the worst wounds lead to the greatest growth, if we're brave enough to walk through the pain toward something new. They say success is the best revenge, but that's not quite right. Success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. The true victory isn't in the external validation, but in the internal certainty that comes from building something that reflects your authentic vision. My app didn't just save a family business. It saved me from a lifetime of seeking approval I might never have received. In losing my place in one company, I found the courage to create something far greater, not just a business, but a version of myself that no longer needed my mother's permission to lead. Sometimes being overlooked is the greatest gift the universe can offer. It forces you to see your own worth, even when others don't. And that recognition, that unshakable self-belief, is worth more than any title or inheritance could ever be.